I mean, what a squad! What a squad! I mean,
Gonna be a fun game.
were the defenders not a thing anymore? Hello, everyone. Welcome to No Drama, Just Movies, and we are back this week with another TV review extravaganza. That's right. My name is Cameron Martial Law Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
Mine is not as cool. I'm Phil Nightgown Man Cohen.
Oh, I mean, that does work. That does work. And if you haven't guessed it by now, but of course, you may have, based on the title of this video, we are here to give our review of episode 8 and 9 of Daredevil Born Again, that being the episode before the finale and the finale itself, and obviously give our little opinions on the overall series, at least this being season 1. And we figured we would do episodes 8 and 9 together because they really mesh. They're pretty much, one whole episode just divided into 2. So, I mean, here we are. We have reached the end.
One is done.
The first thing I do want to say is, if we're looking at these 2 episodes as a whole, what was your initial impression when those credits finally rolled and it was like, okay, we did it. We finished season 1 of Daredevil Born Again.
Those 2 are fantastic, like really good episodes, especially together. And I think they kind of need to be talked about in together because they're kind of part 1 and part 2, so to speak, because 1 really sets up the next one. 8 really sets up 9, and like how it all came to a head, and like everybody moving in like the start, the battle positions basically was really awesome to see. And like little things like Fisk putting back on his white suit and like seeing him again as literally Kingpin, Kingpin, something. And Matt obviously in his suit, and like, yeah, it was, and then obviously in the last episode, Frank in his kind of like with the skull. So yeah, everyone back to being themselves really. Was really awesome to see, and just like, yeah, how it all like build.
Yeah.
The confrontation.
I mean, I echo that. I think we are back. We are truly back. Like, what a crazy ride, man. Like 5 years ago, however many years ago it was, like it looked like, that Daredevil was done, that it was over. Comes back here. Obviously, they announced it a few years ago. Kevin Feige announces it's coming back. They scrap the show and then start again from scratch. And luckily, thank goodness, we got this. We got this. I mean, I put this after seeing this whole season, but specifically the final 2 episodes. I put this in the same camp as WandaVision. Personally, I've put this in the same camp as Loki. I think that thus far, looking at the multiverse saga, obviously I don't want to keep coming back to it, but I will say that I think that this joins those ranks of, I guess, one of the best that Marvel has put out, period, since post-Endgame. And I'm talking TV, film, and even if we're just looking at the grand scheme of things across the entire run, I think that this is up there in terms of like, something great that they produced. And oh man, I mean, and also I want to quickly say, because this is also an initial thought, that I think this is because of social media. Everybody on social media was obviously saying, "Where's Spider-Man? Where is he? He should be here.
No.
This is New York." It is a bit weird that he isn't there. But that being said, I think it's also believable that he would be tackling other things, or maybe choose to tackle other things. But that was just hilarious. But but let's get into specifics, right? So, episode 8. This for me was the peak. We reached our peak of television for Daredevil Born Again here. This episode was tremendous. It's tremendous. And I watched this after seeing the initial reviews and reactions. It is incredible. And I think part of it is because, thank goodness, Poindexter's back. And he's actually back.
I won't ever call him that. Poindexter.
I never used to, but I feel like I need to now. But I think also as well, one of the things I really appreciate is that this felt like half mystery thriller, half action. Like
Mm.
there was so much going on. You had this element of obviously Matt slowly trying to find out what the angle is, what Fisk's angle is, and also, how Vanessa is obviously behind the assassination. Well, I was going to say assassination attempt, the murder and
Cool.
assassination of Foggy. Well, murder, we might come back, never know. But so you had that, and then obviously you had Poindexter going through his whole prison thing where, he's escaping and doing his thing. And it was just tremendous. I just loved it. And then obviously you cap it off with that terrific final ball sequence where it's like, oh, this just, I remember
Good.
quickly looking at the time where I was in the episode and I was like, no, please, I need another 20 minutes.
More.
Yeah, more. What was your thoughts on episode 8?
I'll echo that, I think, because I really, like you said, the mystery as well. Like this stuff that Matt finds out that Vanessa is involved and like what happened? Why did Foggy like rub her the wrong way and like why did he have to die? And um that I found really interesting. And then obviously the fact that Vanessa is involved because now Matt doesn't just have a beef with Fisk, but with Vanessa as well, right?
Mm.
Um and then yeah, that because point I know. No, I won't. No, Bullseye first gets moved, right, to Gen Pop, general population, I guess is what
Yeah.
that means. And we don't know why and like what's going on there, and like then we find out why. And so there's a lot of like little mysteries, and like I said, there's all these pieces being set in place, and like everyone's shuffling around the board, ready to strike. So I love that. And yes, the ball scene was absolutely awesome. Just like what I liked about it as well is this like world of for Matt, this world of Daredevil and Matt coming together, and suddenly like there's this huge problem that he has like with Heather,
Yeah.
his girlfriend.
Oh, Heather.
Um, Heather. Why Heather? Um, to kind of move. He needs to move against Fisk and Vanessa, but Heather's also there, so he kind of has to navigate those two
Mm.
uh personalities of his, and I love that stuff. Where these two identities collide.
Yeah.
And then obviously like him jumping in front of the bullet, I was like, I watched it like going, what's
Yeah.
going to be their like their relationship now? What Fisk? How is Fisk going to react to Matt actually saving his life? Um, like, is he going to forgive him? Is he going to like let him slide for one? If like, does Matt get a freebie? And obviously, we in episode 9 we find out what's going on, which kind of makes Fisk even worse.
What's your thoughts on that though? Because like I can't help but feel like that was maybe wasted or not. The idea
Well,
of Matt taking the bullet for Fisk, I was
mm,
so intrigued to see what Fisk's reaction would be and how interesting that was. But obviously, seeing his reaction, obviously more so in line with his sinister self being, well, okay, well, we could go and kill him now, like
no, we're gonna
wipe
do
him
it.
out. Like that, I thought was like, I
Mm,
would have. I was quite intrigued to see, not to say it had to be a sentimental response, but I was quite intrigued to see if they was gonna play around with what his actual reaction to that was gonna be and how he may
okay.
have used it in still a sinister way, but in maybe a roundabout way. Whereas Matt's response is like, he still can't even, when Frank asks him in the finale, like, why'd you take a bullet for that guy? He's like, I wish I had the answer for that. That part
Because
maybe
he's
could
the
be
good guy.
interesting. I mean, maybe we that is true. I mean, and is someone who wants to do things by the law. So maybe we'll find out a bit more about that. I would like to see a scene with, and I think that's one thing as well that I have missed.
Mm,
But it's being teased, and I love it, like an actual one-on-one confrontation again between Matt and Fisk. Obviously, we had the diner scene from I think
yeah.
episode 1 or something like that, or 2. And then obviously, we had this ballroom sequence where they're kind of talking while they're dancing with their opposite halves. But
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to see when they finally get to sit down again, especially when Matt is Daredevil, and how that conversation and confrontation goes.
That's definitely gonna, because they really, really ramped up the action, or the threat, I guess. With that, that's why I love the final episode as well, like with the idea that there's gonna be some kind of like civil war or something going on between
Yeah.
Matt's team, like the good guys, including Cherry.
Jerry,
And Cherry.
what a team, by the way.
I
What a
know.
doofus team. I mean, goodness gracious. You are going up against the task force and you are
We
rolling
did.
up with Cherry, Kirsten, the other lady, and a whole bunch of cops that probably couldn't do squat. I mean, what a squad. What a squad. I mean,
Gonna be a fun game.
were the defenders not a thing anymore?
But no, I don't think so. But yeah, just that. So there's definitely going to be a confrontation, I think, and it
Yeah.
might end. Second season might end with Matt and Fisk meeting again, and maybe Bullseye being in there somewhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting.
We can't continue without talking about good old Frank Castle. And I have a question,
Yeah.
right? We obviously they have been building up this angle of, kind of people, I guess, being inspired by Frank, inspired
Mm.
by the Punisher, getting the tats, wearing the bulletproof vest, and kind of forming this. I don't even know what you'd call it, but a lot of those guys happen to then obviously cross over into the anti-vigilante task force. And I don't think this storyline really,
No.
really hit the mark like it really like we maybe hoped. I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong. I did love the sequence that Frank turns up to. I guess it looked like maybe Red Hook or somewhere near, and obviously took out multiple people before finally getting stopped, and that was necessary because it was starting to get a bit unbelievable. But finally,
Is
but
it okay?
I loved it though. I still loved it. But him sitting there and them all him laughing at them and saying, they're all clowns. I wouldn't piss on you if you're on fire. And him asking, you don't know my loss, like,
Mm.
and but once again, like I just didn't really get where they were. It felt like this storyline was done as a way specifically to include Punisher, but there wasn't any substance to it, and that's my question for you. Like, did you feel like it hit for you?
It's true. I think I know what you mean. Like there could have been a little bit more, well, involvement for Frank. Him seeing these people who go around and killing and indiscriminately, I guess, or killing the good guys, wearing his symbol. Like, what does he think about that? And why don't we get like
Mm,
this speech, this like you're clowns and you don't know anything. Why don't we get that a little bit beforehand, or like just his view
mm.
on that beforehand? I think yeah, Frank felt a little bit underused for me, and maybe that was the issue. Um, yeah,
Yeah. And it's sad because like when he's on screen, even by himself, he's electric.
he's
When he's
oh,
with Matt, goodness gracious,
I
Charlie
love when
Cox
she's
and John
together.
Bernthal, like those guys are just electric together. And like that scene when Matt arrives in his apartment and he's in his gown and he sits down and he's like, "You're the last person I thought was gonna be here," and it pans to Frank. I was like, oh, that felt like an Avengers moment, but street level. That felt like, oh yes, it's time. Like when the character finally arrives that you've been waiting for, and
Yes.
he's ready for business. And I felt it. One thing I do want to mention. Oh,
Hmm.
well, in fact, before I get onto that, let's talk about that post-credit scene.
Yeah.
Because that post-credit scene, I mean, I think it could set up one of two things. It either sets up simply season two and the fact that Frank is obviously going to be back out to help Matt, or obviously we did get the confirmation from John himself that the one-shot Punisher
His
like
own.
episode thingy is going to be coming in the pipeline. However, I don't know if that's due to come out. Obviously, we had a video confirmation on the Daredevil Twitter page today from Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio that they are currently filming Daredevil season 2, as we've been seeing all the leaked stuff, but that it does come out 2026. And so I don't know what the chances are that we get that one shot prior to next year. And so maybe that post-credit scene is actually just setting up season 2 rather than the actual one shot. Because I wouldn't mind a one shot that was actually maybe John doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Well, I say John, Frank doing his own thing, in the lead up to then finally getting back together with Matt and, doing whatever they do in season 2. What was your thoughts on that post-credit scene?
I didn't need it. I didn't need to see that he
Yeah.
was about to escape. We didn't see him escape, but like he's pretty much on the way out, right? I think it takes away suddenly a lot of the tension going into either his own thing or season 2. Because if they like just show him banged up or locked up, it's like, oh my God, how is he going to get out? Like, what's going to happen until he gets out? But this kind of, oh, he's already out. Problem solved.
Mm.
Yeah, it's kind of, I didn't need it.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. One thing I do want to point out that I
Mm.
was reminded of is obviously a couple of years ago when Kevin Feige confirmed that Born Again was coming, he said that the first season was going to consist, I believe he said, of 18 episodes. I
It
remember
didn't.
but that's the thing. I remember at the time we were like, oh crap, like, huh, huh, huh. But obviously, seemingly, it seems like the decision they've made here is to actually break that into half, hence
Yeah.
season 1 and season 2. I want to ask you how excited you are for that, because if that's the case, the idea that this is just one whole story
Mm.
and we have reached what feels like such a fever pitch right now, and then we're gonna roll, I'd imagine from once we pick up from season 2, we're gonna start bang on where we left off. Like, I mean, the excitement for season 2 for me is through the roof right now, because it's like, I mean, goodness gracious, if this is where we're leaving off, and this is essentially part 1, should we say,
Mm.
of a 2-part story, like, goodness gracious. I mean, I'm hoping that season 2 is just like, woo, just like a rocket launch. Like, that it just goes like crazy. What's your thoughts? Are you excited for the season 2 now?
Yes, yeah, but how it ends, like I said, I think this is going to be like a nice little a war, right, for these two parties. So there's definitely going to be stakes. There's definitely going to be like a little bit more action, I suppose, and maybe even like maneuvering as well, if you know what I mean. Like a little bit like let's how do we take these guys down, these trained policemen? Um, and yeah, like you said, like this motley crew of Matt's people,
Mm.
how are they going to go against this like trained task force? So I'm excited and intrigued, like about how they're going to do that and how it's going to look. But I think it's going to be epic. Uh,
Yeah. Epic is the word. And also, I do wonder what team Poindexter's going to be on. But we'll see. We'll see. That'll be quite interesting to see. But obviously, that then leads us into our overall thoughts on this
hmm,
season. So I'll just say, like, I thought this season was awesome. I know that, like, this word has been, or this phrase has been used a lot, but I did kind of really feel like we were back. And what I mean by that is more so specifically for Daredevil. It just
hmm,
felt like this show, a show that was so beloved, show that was so revered, that it feels like we are really back. This cast is tremendous. The writing is obviously great. Like, it's a real ensemble show. What I mean by that is just the casting so tremendous. The characters are so great. It's such a ride, and like it's a show now that it has finished. Even though we only will have a year to wait, I will miss, because it's just awesome, and it is great to be back and born again, as they say. So I thought it was great. Obviously, we had a bit of a slow start, and we kind of took a bit of a left turn with the Muse thing that unfortunately didn't fulfill what we hoped it would. And obviously, that does tie into characters like Heather that I still think are not reaching their full-on potential just yet.
yeah.
But once we got going, we got going. And even in those slower moments, I still really appreciated a lot of the story and the dialogue and whatnot that was taking place. And well, once we got going, we got going. I mean, Jesus, we got going. And so, yeah, I think it's a win. It's absolutely a win. I thought it was a great season. Great, great season. What about you?
For me as well, like obviously, like you said, it's slowed down a little bit, and we talked about that in like individual reviews. Like, but once I settled into this idea of there's not going to be Daredevil all the way, this is for a reason called Born Again or Daredevil Born Again. This is about him finding that role again or finding his like finding Daredevil again or becoming Daredevil again, right? And once I accepted that, it was a lot more enjoyable, but I had to accept that first. Like you mentioned, Muse was a bit of a shame. It felt a little bit like he was an afterthought when they were coming up with this show. Like, oh, let's slap in Muse, but we don't know what exactly to do with him. Could have like expanded that a little bit more and maybe made him the main villain of this season. Um, but I'm glad for that ensemble anyway. I think they saved a lot of it for me. Just like, above all, D'Onofrio and Charlie Cox. But also like the little ones, the smaller roles, let's say. Yeah, even down to Heather. Like I'm not sure what her role is going to be going forward if she like starts working for Fisk. Um, but I liked her role as just like, for that conversation of, is Daredevil a good guy or a bad guy? And what yeah, that philosophical argument that went through the whole show or season, I think. Vigilante, yes, or vigilante, no. So yes, there was a lot of stuff that I really enjoyed about this season, and like you said, it did build, it did like explode towards the end, right?
Yeah.
We reached a little crescendo there, which like yeah, excuse the rest.
That is true. That is true. I mean, we are absolutely in agreement there. So now we are obviously going to do our IC review scores. First and foremost, we'll start with our IC review scores out of 10 for episodes 8 and 9. So I'll go first. Episode 8, it's a 9 out of 10. No questions asked. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I'm biased because I just watched it, but okay, I gotta be honest. The finale was probably more so 8.5 ICs out of 10.
Ooh.
No, screw it. They were both nines. They were both nines. They were both 9 out of 10s. Episode 8, 9 ICs out of 10. Episode 9, 9 ICs out of 10. I'm giving it that. How many ICs out of 10 will you give for episodes 8 and 9?
I'm doing the same. Like I'm giving them both a 9. Because yeah, they belong together and they're kind of like on the same level, I feel, even though they did slightly different things. But yeah, absolutely. 9 out of 10 for both of them.
Well, that leaves us to the big one. That is our IC review score for the entire season 1 of Born Again. So I will go first. I am going to give this an 8.5 ICs out of 10. It might more so be an 8, but those final 2 episodes really do help.
Hmm.
I'm happy to be back. I thought it was great. I was still, even when things were not exactly the most riveting, I was still there. I was still with it. And we got there and then some. And so I'm going with 8.5 ICs out of 10 for season 1 of Born Again. How about yourself?
I'm gonna go slightly down. I'm gonna go with the 8 out of 10. I think it fumbled Muse a bit. I think it's kind of I was missing Karen and Foggy a lot during the season. It felt weird to have them include them in the first episode just to like kill Foggy off and then have Karen shove her to the side. And when she did come back, it was like awesome to see Deborah and Woll and Charlie Cox together again, like that chemistry I love. Um, so yeah, it's not quite great. But the stuff that it did do was awesome with the characters that it had. And I love the ensemble and I love the story. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for the overall season 1.
Well, damn. I mean, clearly it was a great season. Once again, we are No Drama, Just Movies. Thank you very much for checking out our review today, guys. Please like, comment, share, drop down in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts on season 1. Well, it's essentially season 4, but you know what I mean. Of the first season of Daredevil Born Again. What your thoughts were on the season finale and any predictions you have for, of course, a season 2 or season 5. Once again, the numbers here is quite confusing. Or it can be a bit of a brain, you know what. But once again, as I said, we are No Drama, Just Movies. Thank you very much for checking out our review today, guys. My name is Cameron Marshall Law Kelly Smith, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague here.
I'm Phil Nightgown Man. Cool. And if I say it cool, if I say it in that way, maybe it sounds a little bit better.
I think you did. I think you did. So that will do it for our review of the season and season finale episodes 8 and 9 of Daredevil Born Again. Once again, thank you very much for checking out our review today, guys. We are No Drama, Just Movies, and we will see you very, very soon. Take care, guys.
Bye.